Good morning, Daytona Beach, and good morning to one and all, and welcome to another fabulous, what promises to be another fabulous discussion. This morning, we're discussing health and equity in our community, and health and actually social services. And that, of course, covers a wide range of topics and issues. And we have two outstanding facilitators to share with us this morning. If you would indulge me, I will try and I will share some meeting protocols with you to help us all be successful during our discussion. After you've joined the meeting, a meeting technician will enable your ability to use your microphone and your webcam. Participants using mobile devices for the meeting will not be able to use their device's camera in this platform. Participants using mobile devices should use the raise hand feature when they desire to speak. Requests to speak are automatically prioritized by the meeting software when the raise hand feature is used. A meeting technician will unmute microphones for participants using mobile devices at the appropriate time to allow participants to speak. All other participants can exercise control of their microphone and camera. Please mute your microphone when you aren't speaking. Meeting technicians will use the chat feature to communicate important information. Contact us at equityinitiative@codb.us or 386-671-8203 for additional comments and questions. I would also encourage you to use the messaging feature to put in just comments and thoughts that you may have, or I even encourage you to, if you have links and things of that nature, to share, because at the end of this session, I will share with you the fact that this is an organic process, and a part of it is that while we don't want to indoctrinate anyone or try to educate, at the end of the day, we do want to educate by providing resources for people to be able to study and review and learn more about equity and how we can become a more wholesome community in this area. So while, as I said, this is an organic process, it's taking a life of its own. I will be the first to say that I'm not an expert on equity, but I believe in it. I believe it's something that we as a community should and need to embrace for our health, and it's just good for us. And so with that being said, this initiative essentially got started based on a lot of what has transpired in our nation. And a lot of what we've said in our community, a lot of folks have asked me, what's my definition of equity? And I've tried to stray away from defining things because I want the community to define and to say what it means to them, and most importantly, to take action. But staff has posted, and we will allow this illustration to remain throughout our sessions. And you see an illustration there that contrasts equity versus equality. And it's an illustration that Sarah Trular, one of our participants, shared with me, and I actually had a copy of it in my files because I've seen it many times, and I think it really highlights and illustrates why equity is so important. It's critical. When an individual doesn't experience or have equity, they are the kid, the smallest kid in the video. And it doesn't matter what area we talk about, whether it be education, whether it be health, whether it be our neighborhoods. They basically cannot participate in the game. They go to the ball game, or they can, and their view, their opportunity to engage is totally blocked. And I think we all would agree that the situation on the left is not a situation that we want people to be engaged in our healthcare experience, or in any fabric of social services that we offer in this city. So I think the objective at the end of the day, when it comes to equity for me, Equity it deals with an intentional effort and agenda by those who are driven to achieve authentic, real equity, to make sure that everyone has what they need to be involved in the game. So the one guy didn't need a box, the second guy needed one box, and the third kid in the video obviously needed two. So we want to talk and figure out ways, and at the end of the day, about how we can enhance equity. With that said, I'm going to go ahead and introduce our two very humble but esteemed professionals who have been in the healthcare industry as well as others for many, many years. Bill Griffin has 40 years of experience as an executive in our hospital systems, most notably in at Halifax Hospital, where he currently serves as the Director of Planning for Halifax Hospital, has been the former CFO and many other roles, and is a wealth of knowledge and influence in our community. And please join me in welcoming Bill Griffin as facilitator for this morning, or co-facilitator.
Thank you, Mayor.
In addition, we have Bob Williams, who is largely, no stranger to most of us. Bob is temporarily, I hope, retired, but he has served in many roles at Halifax, Daytona State. He has cut his teeth originally in the IT field as an executive and founder of his own company. So he has served on many, many boards in our community, personally helped me a great deal with the foundation and establishment of the First Step Shelter Board. And he's a wealth of knowledge in social services as well as Halifax Hospital. I would like to welcome him as a co-facilitator. And I would also like to welcome a person who I considered as, asking, but she's here, and I'm delighted to have her, Dr. Deanna Wathington, Dean at Bethune-Cookman University, is also joining the call, and we're delighted to have her as well. And so with that being said, I will turn it over to our facilitators and allow them to lead our discussion for this morning.
Well, thank you for those kind words, Mayor. It's an honor and a privilege for all of us to support you in this really important session and our effort. And so this first listening session for Mayor Henry's Equity Initiative, we're here where this morning we'll initiate a conversation regarding health and social service equity. We want to thank everybody who's participating this morning. I see a lot of friends out there, some who are on the screen, some who are not. I did see also Dr. Victoria Fallberg, I think, has joined us on the line. Robin King, Joe Sullivan, thanks for joining. Too many people here to mention, but thank you all for being here. Thank you so much, Mayor Henry, for your outstanding leadership during this exceptionally difficult time. And I think we really need to take a moment to thank all the health and social service providers who've been on the front lines during these challenging times. There just really are not words to thank you for your service and sacrifice that all of you have done. So we thought we'd take some lessons from some of the best practices established by another wonderful leader in our community. Teresa Rand did a phenomenal job yesterday moderating the session on business and media. And as she opened it up, she indicated this will not be an education session, even though the topics of health and social service equity, health disparities, the social determinants of health, they're broad and complex topics. But instead of, we could spend days on those things, and there are conferences that I'm sure many of us have been to that spend days on those things. Really here today, we're here to share our personal perceptions and perspectives to begin this equity conversation. It's an opportunity to discuss things that may be in the way or have created barriers to experiencing equity in our community. So the mayor shared a little bit logistically. We'll do our best to sort of pass the microphone around as we do have, looks like, over 20 people attending at this point. I'm sure more will come on as we go along. If you want to write into the chat box, we'll try to keep an eye on that if you want to speak. If you've got your video on, if you just want to motion your hand or whatever. We'll try to keep an eye on that and go around and call on people. Those who are on the phone who are not sharing their video, you just want to wait for a pause and then kind of jump in. Or we'll also try to remember to pause and ask if there's anybody on the phone that would like to share. So with that, we liked how Teresa started her session yesterday by giving participants an opportunity to share, why are you here today in this session on health and social service equity? So with that, we'll open it up. Who would like to jump in there first?
I can. My name is Christy Gillis. I'm currently for the Florida Department of Children and Families. I've grown up in this community, graduated from DeLand High School, very involved in the community. Currently also participating in the Florida Department of Juvenile Justice Race Equity Challenge. So having worked social services for 20+ years, I'm glad that we're having these conversations. I think that it's important that we have these conversations. Sometimes it seems like conversations get started and then stop, but I'm happy to be here, being able to participate, hoping to make a change in our community. This is also something that Florida Department of Children and Families tracks in relations to investigations, case removals, et cetera. So it's something that's important to me and my community, and I'm happy here to help any way that I can.
Thank you, Christy.
Robin?
It's really weird to hold your hand up in front of a camera.
It works though.
It does. Mayor Henry, again, thank you so much for this. The more I talk to my peers and my board members on the possibilities that you're opening up for us here is just phenomenal. This is, it's important. And this window is not going to be open for a really long time, so we need to take advantage of it today. And for me, the reason I'm here, I'm going to serve on the business side, but then for our job seekers. And where I have witnessed for years and have not known how to address it is the inequity in the employment rates of those that we serve, the education rates of those that we serve. That if our overall goal is prosperity or access to prosperity for all, then we need better tools to help raise up some of those that where their unemployment rates are higher. People with disabilities, people of color, older workers. It's not the same for everybody. And we need to address that. And that's why I'm here.
Thank you very much, Robin. I mean, and I'm sure we'll talk more. Bill, we'll probably want to share about, the social and economic factors that impact health. Who else would like to share? Joe?
Yeah, Mayor, thank you for pulling this together. We're having some frank discussions in our organization right now. We have a lot of people on our board with wealth, power, and influence. We're serving 3/4 of our kids are, people of color, black and brown. We're kind of in the eye of this storm right now. So I'm trying to get our board to understand that what inequity is, what our kids and families are facing. And we have to look at ourselves, and a lot of them, I don't know, kind of giving me a little pushback, hey, I'm one of the good ones, I'm trying to help. But I think we need to be better. We need to realize this problem going forward, and we need to see it for what it is, because we can't solve world hunger. This is hundreds of years of inequity, but we can be better next week, next month, next year, and hopefully 7 years from now, our fifth graders are going to graduate high school. So I'm trying to get them to look at the long view, but who we are and what we do, while it's really good, we got to be better.
Thank you very much, Joe. Suzanne, you had your hand up a moment ago. We can't hear you.
Here we go.
I'm Sue Odina, and I'm a member of Our Lady of Lourdes. I'm also a commercial realtor. I have been involved in caregiver support for over 20 years. And so I'm interested in the aspect of where do you go for help? And it's often difficult for the people that need help to find it. And it's difficult for us to know who in the community. I've got lots of seniors that are living alone that are in need of services. I've got lots of caregivers that, again, need support. And I've got lots of people who have been diagnosed with one thing or another that need support as well. So I'm interested from that aspect.
Thank you, Sue. Ethan, did you have your hand up?
Yes, I did. Good morning. My name's Ethan. I'm from the Department of Health here. I'm also an adjunct instructor at Bethune-Cookman and a doctoral student at USF. I'm primarily here because I'm really interested in how do we start communicating this shift from interpersonal racism really being the issue to systemic issues. And I realized in some trainings I've conducted and working with our own staff here that most people really do not understand the difference. And I think when we're looking at inequities, especially in health, they're systemic issues because we can have no racists, no bigotry at all within the people that work in the systems, but the systems themselves are still designed for certain people to do really great and other people not to. So I think myself and then of course our administrator, Patricia, we're really interested in learning, okay, how do we start communicating that message to people who work in this field and kind of shifting the tide in that way.
Excellent. Thank you for sharing that. Randolyn.
Hi, I'm Randolyn Haley. I'm the Director of Community Impact at United Way. I'm here primarily to see how United Way can serve a role in our health realm and social services. We've funded programs in our community, and I want to make sure that the programs we're funding are serving the needs of our community.
Thank you very much. Jacqueline.
Hi, I'm Jackie Garcia, a service coordinator with Daytona Beach Housing Authority. I'm currently working at a property here within our community, and I serve 4 of the other communities also that Daytona Beach Housing Authority have affordable housing in. I serve residents that are 0 to 100, I guess. So pretty much just trying to really learn more about how to connect our residents to health and wellness and careers and education. Our biggest, issue that we have is again, they're low income because the opportunity, they may not have known of the opportunity, or they may not have that, it may just not be something that they were exposed to. So we're really trying to get them connected to people in our community and to enhance them so they can have self-sufficiency and no longer need our assistance with housing. So ultimately, my goal is to help them become more self-sufficient so that they can go out and not need the government subsidies. Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you, Jackie. Anyone else?
Hey, Bob. Yeah, go ahead, Victoria.
Victoria?
Hi. Yeah, I was looking for my microphone. I'm Dr. Victoria Fallberg. I run the First Step Shelter. In the past, I've lived all around the world in different places, and I've only been here in Florida for 2 years. And so I participated in a number of equity and other trainings and cultural diversity, things like that. So I'm really, I'm just trying to learn more about this new cultural environment that I'm in. And I also really appreciated what Ethan said, is that he wants to understand how we move from interpersonal to systemic, looking at the systems that, that if we change individually, how does that actually impact the system? Because the system is really what keeps people oppressed. So anyway, I'm really grateful to be part of this. I'm really grateful to, I'm always trying to learn wherever I end up landing in my life. I try to learn from the context in which I find myself, from the people that I surround myself. And so that's, I just really see this as part, because I can do my own job better if I understand people better.
Thank you, Dr. Fahlberg. Is there anyone on the phone that wants to jump in?
Yeah, good morning, Bob. This is David Weiss from Advent Health. I'm the COO here at Advent Health in Daytona Beach, and I'm on the phone today really to listen to our community. This is certainly a topic that's very, very important, and lots of conversation is going on within our organization, both locally as well as across our company on this. And so I'm here to listen to the community and to be able to take some of that feedback and incorporate it into our own plans of how we can address this. And we've got to do a better job addressing the inequities in healthcare. The social determinants of health have a staggering impact on longevity and the quality of life that people live. And we need to do a better job addressing that as a country, as well as here in our own community. And I'm excited to be a part of that.
Well, thank you so much, David, for your participation. Again, we're so fortunate in our community to have two great hospital systems, and you guys have just stepped up incredibly during these just unprecedented times. Please give my regards to my good friend Ed Noseworthy, and thank you for participating.
Yeah, I will do that. Thank you, Bob.
Anyone else on the phone that wants to say anything? All right, so we're going to roll into some of the healthcare issues. And Bill, you mind kicking?
Hello? Hello?
Oh, yes.
Hello?
Hello?
Oh,
Yes.
hi. Hi. Hi, everybody. This is Jenny Nazak. I am a local, what do I call myself? A local freelance environmental educator is what I usually label myself. I'm trained in permaculture, which is the design of sustainable human settlements. And I am very interested because I see the connection between the environment and health. And two of the most obvious connections between the environment and wellness have to do with nature, just having a natural environment. Even in an urban area, we can have a good natural environment or not. And then food, the availability of fresh food everywhere. And I think most people are familiar with the term food desert, but I recently came across a term food apartheid that people are using now to signify that systemic racism has actually actively created these food deserts, and we have to proactively go about addressing them. So yeah, I'm just very interested in wellness from these standpoints, and I look forward to seeing how we can progress on this. Thank you, everybody.
Let me interject there. Jenny Nazak has the most important job in a democracy. She is a citizen and an extraordinary citizen.
Thank you, Mayor Henry.
Yes.
I am a self-appointed volunteer sustainability coordinator for the city of Daytona Beach. So if anybody tells you that Daytona Beach doesn't have a sustainability department, that's not true. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, Jenny. And we were just wrapping up, going around, having everyone, share why they're here today. Sarah, I see you just joined. Is there anything, hate to put you on the spot, is there anything you'd like to share before we move on?
Yes, hi. My name is Sarah Trular. I am just a citizen. And so I am, I'm a member of Our Lady of Lourdes, which probably says a lot as far as just why I'm here. But I certainly, my husband was, his entire passion was the homeless community. He passed away 3 years ago. He was on the board of the Salvation Army and the streets team. So I want to make sure that we carry on that legacy. And certainly equity needs to be a huge part of homelessness in general. But I certainly that's why I'm here. I want to be a part of this and to do and how health and food and availability of fresh food and all of that, how that all is so interconnected. And I just want to kind of be a part of the conversation and hopefully part of the solution. So that's why I'm here.
Thank you, Sarah. Thanks for joining us. Anyone else? Christy, are you trying to say something? Because we can't hear you. No? Okay. All right, Bill, do you want to take us to the next question?
I do, but as I move in this direction, I want to look back at that graphic that the mayor has about equality and equity, because when I saw that yesterday, it really changed my perspective on a lot of different topics that we are considering and how the lens to look at each of these topics and opportunities. And we've got a lot of things that are equal, but we have a lot of barriers to making them equal to all. And I'm hoping that we've got this group of people here participating this morning and the people who participated yesterday who have got a desire to, as Joe said, over 7 years, for using the 5th grader example, they're going to be graduating from high school. And have we done a good job of giving them equity to have a chance for hope to become the best person that they can possibly be? And that's a big, big deal for so many of us. And I see so many around the room. And Ethan, you're right. We got to move from the idea that it's all about the individual relationships to what are those systemic things that keep that little kid from being able to see over the fence, and how do we make that right? So my first question is related to health and social services. And I think too often those of us who are in the healthcare profession think about health as what hospitals and doctors do. And that's a component of it, but there's a whole lot more. In fact, what the hospitals and the doctors do is probably a minor portion of how we create health and how we create equity and how we create, because I think if you don't have hope, it's hard for me to envision that you've got health. You may not have a medical illness, but are you really healthy? And those are the questions that I think as we look at this, we need to ask. We can address a lot of the traditional healthcare issues. And I do want to ask some questions about that during this session. But beyond that, as I think about health, and how do we start with Joe, your group with the Boys and Girls Clubs, and saying, if we can get to me, what do we need to do to give those kids equity? And I'll use an example. The city and the county has incredible youth athletic programs. And they're equally available to everybody. But if I'm living in a household that doesn't have an automobile, do I have equity? How do I get there? And as I think about our community, using that one example, what do you all think are those issues or opportunities where we could create health, but there's something in the way?
Bill, are you asking the group?
Yes.
Okay, so if I could just say a few things. So I'm going to, of course, confirm what you said about access to care and sort of what we as doctors and nurses, et cetera, do as being a very small portion, actually, almost the end of the road of what makes us healthy. And we spend a lot of time talking about, you know, the reasons why we are dying, or as we say in my field, causes of mortality, right? But we don't often talk about what the causes of health are. And I think that we're at a point now in this conversation where people are really understanding that the determinants are these causes of health. They're the things that make us healthy. So for instance, that kid that you were talking about from one of our neighborhoods, well, yes, we have the sports program. But my first question when you were talking about that kid is, have they had, how many meals have they had this past week, right? Because if they weren't going to school, or even if they were going to school, how many meals have they had versus the kid who's arriving there, you know, in an automobile with a family that's fully supported. So it's it's not just the healthcare, you are correct. And actually, we've known for a number of years now that 40% of it rests with the structural issues of how we've created a society, and then how that then impacts people on that individual level. So it brings everything that Ethan was saying together. Good to see you, Ethan. And so we're often talking about bottom-up approaches being the best, but I'd like us to consider thinking about this from a top-down approach that my colleagues at Morehouse University have actually started calling the determinants political determinants, because it's the people who are creating the structure, creating the policies, the regulation, funneling the money or deciding where the funding goes, that are perpetuating, usually without realizing, right, these systems that impact the health of the individuals in the communities. And so I'd like to maybe turn it on its head for a minute and think about it that way as well. I'll be quiet, sorry.
That's good. Victoria.
Yeah, so that's the way I was thinking when Bill mentioned no automobile. All I could think of was, well, then that means that they're probably not, their income is insufficient. So then what does that mean? That means that, where in society do we need to change in order so that these people can have a sufficient enough income so that, the children can eat and have food, and so they can buy a vehicle so they can go to sports. So, I think that, it's like, and I agree with what, is it Deanie?
Yeah.
What Deanie was saying is that I feel like you've got to look at it that way, is that there's all these things we can do. I worked for 20 years of my life as a clinical psychologist, working with people one-on-one. And there was a point in my life where I was like, okay, I'm working one-on-one with all these people. I'm helping people one at a time. There's a way that we should be helping people, lots of people at the same time. And the only way we can do that is through a change of systems, not a change of, individually, there are things we can do, and there's always things we can do better. But there has to be a change in the system in order to be able to help the numbers of people who need to be helped, so that people can have an automobile and so that children can have meals. One of the things that I deal with here at the shelter is people have an income, but they still can't afford a house. They can't afford rent, or they can't afford health care. So, it's like, these are big system problems that I feel like we need to look at in order to talk about having an equitable society.
Thank you, Dr. Fahlberg. Sue. Nope, we can't hear you. Turn your mic on, please. Let's see. We still can't hear you.
Try it now.
All right, here we go.
There we go.
I also work in affordable housing, and the regulations for that are so many things have to be within a 1 mile distance. I know I walked to high school, which was 3 miles, just because I wanted to save my allowance for something else. So I didn't spend it on the bus. I'm amazed at how many people here ride their bikes. So that's a way that people can get around. But if we looked at our community as what's within a 1 mile radius, a 2 mile radius, a 3 mile radius, and tried to put those services within that neighborhood, we might have better access for everybody. I have lots of seniors that have problems with getting to, for instance, the drugstore. In doing a study, because that's a new requirement for affordable housing, is that a drugstore has to be within a 1 mile radius. It limits where affordable housing can go. So it is a serious issue here.
Ethan.
All right. So I think too, just because it's when we talk about health and systems, it gets like so big because it's, you know, kind of all encompassing. It's kind of hard to swallow at once. But I think when Bill was mentioning, you know, when we're looking, we have a lot of equality in our systems with health and like human services, but equity is where we struggle. I immediately think, I know here at the health department, WIC, for example, you know, our WIC counselors, when we hire them, you know, they get the health equity training and they really internalize it like, well, and I've had conversations with them. It's like, I treat all of my clients equally. You know, they all need some type of assistance. They all are already at a disadvantage. But I think I know one thing that they never considered was, well, we know that although they all are at a disadvantage, we know that the Black mothers breastfeed at a much lower rate. We know that the Black mothers experience infant mortality at a much higher rate. So what are we doing then if we say we have a strategic plan objective to reduce infant mortality? What are we doing differently with Black mothers than white mothers? And are there procedures or policies in place, which there aren't, that specify what should be done? And just taking into historical context, which I know a lot of you ought to realize that, but if you look at, you know, African-American women who were historically wet nurses, and then you do advertising formula in low-income Black communities, you know, and I look at my own mother, grandmother, and great-grandmother, none of them breastfed because it was you were seen as a poor Black person. They're all highly educated though. So I think that one of the big problems is that we're not looking at like current procedures and current policies that we're implementing, and we're considering equality, but we're not considering equity in that mix. Like, these people are in need, but the needs are different.
Thank you, Ethan.
So the question to me becomes, how do we get these conversations going to a place where we can take some steps of correcting the system or supplementing the system through the people that we're trying to serve? Deanna and then Joe.
Well, I think, and Ethan was so completely on point with that, and mentions a very important piece of it, which is understanding also where people are coming from culturally and historically, right? So historically, what the nation has been really learning and paying attention to over the past 6 weeks is the true history of an ethnic group or various ethnic groups of brown skin in this country that they hadn't heard before. They hadn't even learned it in school, and I know that. And so then you design systems without that in mind. And so to a starting point, I think, is to start where we are, number one, within our own organizations. And so I know, for instance, that a number of you that I see here have had your organizations engaged in implicit bias training. That is key. That is key, because we all have implicit bias. We don't all hold the power of racism, because that entails power and money, but we all have our own implicit biases, and it's good to know what those are so you can move forward within your space, within your organization, within your policies, in your sphere, to change that. But then also, when you do that, that causes change. It can cause change above you and below you, right? But I also think that it's an imperative for the people that we deem as our leaders as well. I'm fairly certain that our and no offense, any of our legislators appreciate the work that they do, to ensure that we are doing well and making policy for us. But has the legislature ever had implicit bias training? How many do they have? They turn over members every so often. It's like doing a 360, right? But it's a 360 about how you're dealing with policies, money, and actually your feelings and your beliefs and myths about populations. So just a starting place there.
And
Joe.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you, Bill. I think this is a good start. I mean, the thing is, a good start though, we can't all go back to our silos and start doing our own jobs again. I'm going to put my friend Robin on the spot here a little bit. I mean, we've been talking, I'm having problems getting teens coming to our clubs. Deanna, your girl came and helped us for many years there at the Spring Hill Club. I want to create a job program for teens. You know, Robin, my first job was with, what was it, the CETA program as a kid at the Boys Club. And it paid, yeah, it paid me a small stipend, and I got to go and play. And I mean, I guess that's why I stayed here. I'm playing and getting paid for it to this day. But you know, we need, everybody has part of the solution here. And what we have to remember is, I don't like to offend people from Florida. Most people here are from somewhere else. There isn't a lot of networks of support for our kids. And my mom raised me by herself, but I had uncles and neighbors and people that were on me if I didn't behave. And you know, it's a big challenge, and people can live, I mean, I'm hearing from the homeless folks, people can live really close to the edge here. We don't have much of a safety net, but and most of our kids are in single parent homes or being raised by their grandparents. So most important time in a kid's life is when they're out of school. And that's why things are so upside down now, because they've been out of school for 3 months. So between what the school does, what we do, what everybody in this call is doing, we just got to figure out a way to talk to each other a little bit more, because I recognize the names, I recognize the causes, but then I'm back here in my office doing my job again. And somehow, Mayor, we got to figure out a way to be talking to each other, because I've got a club in 8 and 7 other cities besides Daytona, and I wish I had this kind of talk with the leadership there. Sorry, Robin, didn't mean to put you on the spot.
Thank you, Joe. Sarah?
I would, I just think that, you know, when we talk about how do we move forward, and obviously we've heard all these different things, from culture and history to availability of fresh food to all these different things, to teens and access to healthcare. And I will tell you that I think that the most important thing that can come out of this is by having all of these individual focus groups, all of us, then all of us being able to come back and go together with all the other focus groups and to bring all of this together, because it's a very holistic, it's going to have to be a very holistic approach. I am an employer. So I own a business, a manufacturer's rep business, and I'm also a partner in a manufacturing plant. If I do not pay a living wage, and if I do not, as an employer, pay for my employees' health insurance, I'm a huge part of the problem. I'm a cause of the problem. So we need to make, I think that part of this health, one of the pieces certainly of this health issue, is to make sure that we get hearts and minds changed on in the private sector and in the businesses to absolutely pay attention to living wage and health insurance and how that affects this issue by itself. So I just want to add that, you know, I take ownership for that. And I feel like I'm in a good place with that. You know, I spoke yesterday about the fact that, you know, I also have investment property. I rent those properties, and most of the properties I get the going rent. But I will tell you that one of those properties is a 2-bedroom condo, and I rent it to a young Black mom of 2 for $650 a month for 2-bedroom apartment condo, because that's my way of giving back. So I'm not patting myself on the back. What I'm saying is that we have to own it. We have to take the power that some of us have. We've got to own it, and we got to give back, and we've got to, we just have to own the impact that we are having and the decisions that we make in the community. And I think it's so great, Mayor Henry, that we have all of these different pieces, because if we literally just came at this from this health and social services standpoint as a silo, we couldn't do it. We'd just continue to do what we've always done. So I think it's so important that ultimately we all come together from all these different focus groups and figure it out.
Hello. Hi, this is Jenny Nazak, and I wanted to pick up on what my friend and neighbor Susan Odino was saying earlier about affordable housing stipulation had to be, for example, within a mile of a drugstore. And it strikes me that the way that we serve our most vulnerable populations also leads to creating the neighborhoods that are best for all. Because really, when you talk about a sustainable human settlement, a well-designed community or settlement would be one where we could walk or bicycle to almost all of our daily needs. Like, wouldn't it be great if that child could walk to the athletic program or to the jobs program because they're right embedded in the neighborhoods? And there are urban planners now talking about the 15-minute neighborhood. Some of y'all may have heard that term, and it's just what it sounds like. And I'm glad that a lot of us are participating in multiple forums, because the business forum yesterday, it was brought up that sometimes zoning makes it difficult to put a business where one might be well to serve the community. And so it's great that we're looking at all that, and great that we're cross-disciplinary. Thank you.
This is Christy. Again, having worked for DCF, my prior employment, I worked with human trafficking survivors in our communities, Volusia, Flagler, Putnam counties. But a lot of the we talk about services and I'm glad we're having the conversation, and it really needs to go back to basic needs, trying to work with individuals and counseling. Let's talk about the trauma that happened, but meanwhile, they're hungry. And okay, we need to go back to basic needs and getting those needs met and making sure that individuals have enough food on the table. And you're right, talking about health and wellness, again, trying to do treatment services, and you have an individual maybe that has some things internally going on, and you need to feel healthy in order to be able to process trauma. Let's talk about employment. If I'm not feeling well, how am I going to go to work every single day? So again, just going back in hierarchy of needs and going back to those basic needs is going to be a continuing, ongoing conversation that we have. Yesterday, we talked about food needs in the community. I chaired the One Voice for Volusia meeting yesterday, and after their coordinated effort, I send out a notice every single day of resources in our county, and combing through social media. And I said, is there an actual coordinated effort to make sure that there's a food drop in Daytona Beach Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday for people that need to get food, and how do they get that information? And there was actually, during that conversation, found out there's no coordinated effort. There's a lot of, which is great, so many grassroots organizations that are coordinating, but this is an opportunity for us to make a change in our community with those basic needs. So just, again, something being done boots on the ground as well for complex families. Basic needs is definitely a good starting point.
Thank you, Christy. Randolyn, did you want to say something?
I just, to kind of piggyback off of what Christy was saying, we do need to make a coordinated effort to have those food drops, but we also need to ensure that the food that we're giving out is going to be used. I think a lot of times there's healthy food that is distributed, but then there's that lack of knowledge of what to do with that healthy food. So as we're distributing food, we're also distributing recipes that you can use, that rutabaga or whatever vegetable is coming with that, so that it's not just sitting on the counter and goes bad. So we're providing healthy food that isn't going to waste. The other aspect that I wanted to touch on was the safety aspect of our neighborhoods. We have a lived environment, an environment where we want our children to walk to the sports if our environment isn't safe. So to be healthy, to be able to go for a walk after work with your family, with your children, the neighborhoods that we live in need to feel safe and welcomed for that type of activity.
Suzanne?
Yeah, I'd love to talk to Joe a little further. One of the things that I had been working on prior to the COVID shutting everything down was I was working with Captain Lee, with code enforcement, with Terrell at housing, and with several other people about a program called Rebuild. In several cities around the country, they have a program that puts at-risk children or children that would like to be in the building trades. And a lot of children, a lot of people in our community have health problems because they're living in substandard housing. When Captain Lee gives them a ticket or what have you for code enforcement, sometimes they can't afford or they don't have the ability. And if we were able to put that group together with the Builders Association, with Captain Lee, with Terrell, with Joe, where the children could be learning a trade and we could be improving our neighborhoods, I think it might be helpful. A plumber makes a lot of money.
I have friends that are in AC and car repair that do much better than me.
You know, that points out, I think, one of the issues that we have is, and I think the mayor spoke about this early, right at the very beginning, is if you don't know there are these opportunities for careers in plumbing or in electrical world or in the automotive world, you think the only thing you can do is go to college, and college isn't for everybody. But there's some great opportunities for people to make an incredibly good living, own their own company, by going through some of these trade schools and opportunities that, we need to be able to say, we're not putting you all in the same, painting you with the brush that college is the only path to success. There's multiple paths to success, but if I don't know what those particular opportunities or options are, I don't know that there's a door to open. So when I think about equity, if I've only got one door that I know that I could open, as opposed to a family who's got their children has 10 doors that are labeled, to me, that's something we really need to work on. And Joey, you talked about going back to our silos and going back to our jobs, our primary jobs. And as we're having this conversation and the conversations that I heard yesterday, I'm thinking, and maybe this is wishful thinking, but if we could make a commitment to one another to say, let's tithe our time and say, if we could take 4 hours a week to continue this discussion about how do we strengthen and rebuild or redefine what our community can be and what's the path to get there. I think this whole initiative that the mayor has started is it's almost like a once in a lifetime opportunity. And I think it would be remiss for us to not make some type of a pledge like that and work together to have a much greater impact than any one of us are going to have individually.
Awesome, Bill. Robin, can you kind of help us out a little bit on some of this education stuff?
I can go back to what I think Dr. Washington said. Our approach has to be holistic. I mean, so this is the third listening session I've listened in on, and this is all interconnected. We can't, Joe can't go and work with just the kids if we're not working with the parents. And so the education component, so I'm going to challenge my friend Bill. Everybody goes to college. Just some people have to do it for 4 years or more. There are no jobs that are growing that aren't going to require some post-secondary education. And how we get that word out on the stackable credentials. Apprenticeship is on the rise again. There are so many opportunities. How do we make sure that that same young man or woman who couldn't get to the ball game, how can they get to that education? How can they work and learn as a new opportunity? You know, so now is a really good time to explore those possibilities because they're more accessible. And when you're done, you don't owe all that money that you know, I paid off my student loans when I was 42. That's, someone shouldn't have to do that, right? And I'm not a doctor, yeah. So there's, again, Dr. Washington, thank you for the way you put it, that this is treating the whole person, the whole family, and the whole community. We can't do it in our silos.
Sarah, go ahead.
As Robin, as much as I agree with you, and I try to certainly get all my kids to go to college, I do think I don't have an ounce of college, and I do, and the reason that I don't have, the reason I am where I am today is because an employer gave me an opportunity without a college education. So I'm going to bring it back to the, you know, responsibility of the employers in our community. Do we really need a bachelor's degree to be an admin? I think somewhere along the way, we got really carried away with this college education thing. And so I think so I would agree but disagree that I think that the employers, though, would need to make a commitment in our community to give people an opportunity that don't necessarily have a degree. The other thing that I just wanted to there's a little story that I tell. I teach, I always teach social justice at our parish when new people are coming into our church. And I got this, I actually took some classes at Loyola that had to do with theology. And I learned this and I'll never forget it. And they gave this analogy of how everything is so connected. And there is a single parent, single mom. And Sue, you mentioned substandard housing, and that's what jogged my memory. There's a single mom, and she has 2 kids, and she lives in substandard housing with a slumlord. One of her kids has asthma, and she tries to work full time. She has a broken down car that most of the time gets her to work. Her son, she has no health insurance because the employer doesn't pay it. The son has an asthma attack, which generates a trip to the emergency room and generates a bill that cannot possibly be paid. He receives 1 inhaler, nothing systemic, 1 inhaler. They get through that crisis. She comes right back to the same substandard housing that's causing the asthma attack. She tries to keep going to work. Her car breaks down. She has to get another car in order to continue to go to work, but she can only afford a car by buying one that charges her 29% interest.
Right.
Because her credit is so bad, because she couldn't pay the emergency room bills for the inhalers and for the doctor visits from living in substandard housing, which causes her to have to miss work, which causes her to not be able to actually increase her income, which causes her to live in substandard housing, which causes her son to have an asthma attack, so that's what we're dealing with. Mm-hmm. And if we don't all come together and try to figure this out, you know, that's what we're trying to do. So thank you, Mayor Henry.
You know, to that end, there are programs and processes that you can go through in a community. And we did this at our school where we all went through a simulation, given, you know, different tickets, different lifestyles, different personalities, and everyone learned how interconnected a person without means and their challenges are, and how one issue sort of serves as a domino effect to a life that sort of scurries down a road out of control, from losing your driver's license to, you know, being pulled over by the police, and then you can't, you know, people go 4 or 5 years before they can get a driver's license, they end up arrested. Just life is interrelated. And I realize that all of these sessions are totally interrelated, and the more I listen to each one of them, the more convinced I am of that. But of course, we knew we had to break them down into these small groups. But the most important thing that I hope will come from this is that we will truly become committed to it. Because in order for us to come back together and to draw all of this together, we have to be in it for the long haul. Because if we do it for a conversation or two, or even a change within our area of purview, it won't have the collective impact that it could have if we stay committed, and then we can eventually run all of this together. How that's going to happen, that's why I say organic. It has to take a life of its own, and we're all starting to see this, and then we'll be able to come back together, and you guys will be able to give us some advice and say, let's try this, Mayor Henry, let's try to bring this together so that we'll be able to get to a better spot. But I definitely agree with what's just said.
Thank you, Mayor. And Ethan, you had one to share.
Yes, I was going to make one comment about employers along the lines of what Sarah was saying, but also with college graduates, I think that one thing that also matters is representation. So like in our area, since this is a pretty small community in Daytona, I grew up to Daytona, I went to Daytona Beach schools. I went to school and I came back, and actually I met Bill Griffin 10 years ago. And because of my conversation with Bill and him introducing me to Dr. Sorensen at the time was how I started working here at the health department, which is where I'm here now. And I'm not sure if that chance encounter didn't happen, that I would have come back to Daytona, because it was really hard finding opportunities there. But what I will say is since then, I've volunteered in multiple capacities with teens here, scholarship boot camps, United Way, Jack and Jill, and they're always shocked when they find out I'm from here. And I realized that I grew up with a certain level of privilege because both of my parents are college educated. But at the same time, I noticed that they're like, oh, wow, you're from Daytona. And it's like what's drilled into them. It's like, well, kids from Daytona, if you grow up and you become anything, you leave, or you're just destined to just not have anything. So I think it does. I think that's really important when we're talking about equity, is recognizing like that power of empowering locals, you know, if they have the opportunity to come back, be it college educated or not. It really matters to kids that are here. And then the other thing I was going to say that's actually not related, but like a step moving forward, and maybe something like this already exists, but I'm wondering, what would it look like for us as people who are working in health social services to kind of present or collect policies that we've already considered that either promote equity that we've already established, or policies that we know that currently exist in our community that are a part of the issue. Like if that might be a good place to start to kind of centralize some of this so we can actually, you know, see the specific.
Robin?
So I'm going to put my United Way volunteer hat on now. And I said this at the first listening session, Mayor Henry, that's where I learned that the graphic that you use, that their term is move the fence, you know, and removing that barrier. So it kind of goes to what someone was saying. A lot of our employers ask for things that they don't necessarily need. I need a bachelor's degree so you can be my secretary, kind of thing. And there's studies that are out there that show the discrepancy between what they ask for and what they really do hire. But just the fact that they've asked for that, they have put up this fence that those who would say, well, I don't have a bachelor's degree, so I don't qualify, versus those who say, well, I've got an experience, I can get in there and do that. And so there's just even that mindset of that access to it, right? And that's something that I would really like to have more influence over, in helping our businesses removing the fence for them too. You know, so there's barriers on both sides of that, when a business can't find people because they're looking for the purple unicorn, and then the people who think that they could never qualify. And there's some really good examples nationally that municipalities, so Mayor Henry, at the U.S. Conference of Mayors, we've learned about how some municipalities create pools of people from specific neighborhoods just to let them know that they could be employees for that municipality. I mean, there's examples out there that help change the mindset of thinking, well, I could never do that because I don't have a completed degree. I mean, how many of our Floridians they took some college, but they didn't get the degree. So they've already put that failure on themselves and they think nobody would want them. Well, that really is something that there's programs out there to help them complete if they wish to, but it also, it's the phrase, may you have enough, kind of comes to mind, that you're not less than just because you don't have some particular label on you. And I do have a quick question. Does Bethune-Cookman teach the implicit bias training?
So we, at least those of us in the College of Health Sciences have had the opportunity, because I insisted that to engage in implicit bias training. In other words, to undertake it ourselves, because if we're teaching our students, we had the first Master of Public Health and Health Equity in the nation. So how can we teach that if we are engaging in our own biases? So the faculty, although Ethan is my adjunct faculty, so you can hear it in him, but you know, they have the opportunity to engage in those trainings, and then that is the manner in which we are teaching the students, at least within the College of Health Sciences. I believe that you'll see a social justice framework as well for the students within the criminal justice programs, both undergraduate and graduate. And I think it does, social justice sort of permeates our thinking at the university. I just don't know that you're going to see it in that form in every academic program, if that's what you're asking me, Robert.
Well, I'm just talking about as a resource for us.
Oh, yeah, yes. You mean, are there those of us who can provide that training? Yes, ma'am. Yes.
David?
I don't want to cut Deanna off, so go ahead and finish your thought.
Okay, sorry, David. How are you? I just wanted to say a little bit about that, about the degree, non-degree. You know, again, that is the perfect example of systemic barriers to achieving. People can be and are productive at all levels, and people look at folks like Bill Gates as an exception, you know, without the college degree. But you know, my parents came from a generation where the majority of them didn't have college degrees. They're very successful, and I think there's benefit in a degree. I think there's benefit in a 2-year program. I think there's benefit in an apprenticeship. There's benefit in all of that. It's us on the other side deciding that we're making the barrier higher and higher and higher. Why are we doing that? That is a structural piece that we can change. And so the only other thing I wanted to talk about is the idea that Ethan was presenting to you is to me the beginnings of the idea of an ongoing health impact committee, because in the end, all these determinants, these meetings we've been having all week, are the determinants of health. They are. And so there are communities that have committees that serve, say, in the office of the mayor, who for any new business, new venture, existing venture, they're looking at how that impacts the health of the communities within that city, because every city has various communities, right? And what they're introducing, say it's a dollar store, is that good for that community or not? What impact will it have on the health of the community, on the health of the businesses around that community, the housing that's put up in that community, like Randolyn was saying? It's all of that. And so it's us thinking outside of the box in a continuing effort. For instance, and this is the last thing I'll say, what Suzanne was speaking about with code enforcement, it links to what Randolyn was saying to me about substandard housing. Why can't we turn that on its head? Why can't we use the people who are train the people who are quote unquote in code enforcement? You're breaking the code. How about we utilize those people to ensure that all of our housing is not substandard? That slum landlord, Sarah, cannot exist, right? Because they can't continue doing that because there's, you know, their housing. So I just think it's thinking outside of the box, turning it on its head a little bit, and having an ongoing group that's looking at sustaining the health of every community in the city.
Hold that thought, you know, and you and I will have to return to that type of thought to bring that back to have some life, because I think that at the end of the day, that's what we all aspire for in our community. We don't want to just talk.
Right.
Then we want to move the needle.
Yes. And I have a challenge for the universities too, but I'll wait until after David talks.
Yeah, thank you. A couple quick comments that I wanted to make. You know, the first of those comments is, and this is a life lesson that I learned myself. One of my first assistants that I hired actually didn't have their college degree and was a single mom struggling to get by with a little one, and was phenomenal in everything that she did. And by having the ability to have that job and the stability of that job, and even some educational assistance that came along with that job, she went on and got a college degree and is now aspiring to go on and do higher things. So that's part of what we all have to do as employers, is give those people those opportunities so that they don't necessarily have that at the front end, but how do we open doors for them to get there, because they may not have had the chance in other pathways. The other thing I'd like to say, actually leading up to the whole COVID-19 crisis, we were actively planning a very open public job fair to try to appeal to really everyone in the community to say, hey, these are all the jobs that are out there in healthcare. You don't have to just be a doctor or a nurse or the typical healthcare roles that everyone thinks of. And this is some of the entry opportunities that you have even without that college degree. And I think that's going to be really, really important. And it's probably something that would even be worthwhile evaluating a partnership with Halifax Health and some of the other healthcare entities within the community to maybe do that jointly to the community and say, hey, here's job opportunities that people have within our community. And we need talented people, and those talented people come with and without those college degrees and those master and doctoral level degrees. And we need to help people get in that foot in the door. And one last comment, Ethan, I appreciate your comments around Black mothers and some of the challenges that they've experienced. And that's something that I will take back immediately for some work with our team to make sure that we can figure out ways to do things differently to make a difference for those moms and for those children, because it's a great point that you bring out. And that's something we'll start working on right away.
Victoria.
So about 10 years ago, with the work I was doing, when Sarah was talking about the substandard housing, we actually had a situation like that. And we did go through code enforcement, because the problem was the child had asthma because they were allergic to cockroaches. And the whole building was infested with cockroaches. And it was a slumlord who owned the building. And so that's what we had to do, is we went through code enforcement, as Deanna was saying, and that was the way that we could sort of begin to start to, change that situation. And if you think about, if you could have code enforcement on a big level, I mean, you could do a whole lot to help a whole lot of children who are facing that. I didn't even realize at the time that children could be allergic to cockroaches, but they are, and they're probably allergic to a lot of other things. So I just wanted to make one comment about the conversation about college. And I think that when we talk about equity, we can talk about employers being willing to hire people who don't have a college education. But we can also, I think with equity, we need to think about those children, those young people who would like to go to college and they can't afford it. Or even, going before that is the kids who might have a ton of capacity. And because they're going to a substandard school, they may never have the potential to reach their own potential. So, it's like, I've been working with these kind of situations for like a really long time. I don't know, you probably can all feel the frustration that I feel, because it feels like the changes, even if we as individuals do things, it's never enough. And, I really, I hope that what we can think about is a way that we can do not just, how I can change and how I can do something better, but how we as a whole, as a community can get behind some things and do some things better. I have a lot of passion about this, and just because of the situations that I've lived through and the homes I've been into and the things that I've seen, and I would love to see a more equitable society. I just think that there's so many levels that we need to look at, but there are things that we can do ourselves. But I think collectively we will be able to do much more than we can do individually.
Victoria, so I'm putting on a different hat now. I've been very involved with Rotary for 25 years. And one of the things that we do, and I think we do it fairly well, is we're conveners, and we bring a lot of people to the table to build community. I hope that's not me. But in the process of bringing people together, I think we need to look at organizations like Rotary, like Kiwanis, these different civic organizations that are just kind of waiting for an invitation to participate in helping to build that community. I'll use an example. Terry T. Small, and Ethan says we crossed paths. It wasn't just by accident. My wife worked for his dad at Terry T. Small. So, and you look at that school, and that was an A-rated school for years because we had a community there, and there was a conversation with a Rotary Club that came in and was doing coaching and counseling with Embry-Riddle students, with Bethune-Cookman students, and we all came together and to become friends and coaches and confidants with those kids. And Joe, using that example, so we started in the 3rd grade with that, and we were terrified. We thought we were going to get rejected, because our own kids rejected us. But it was such a great opportunity to grow with these children and see them go on to graduate from high school, graduate from universities, and enter into careers that none of them really had even any aspiration or thought that was going to happen for them when they were about 8 years old in 3rd grade. And to me, that's how, if we can start reaching out to all of our connections and creating that network and creating a focus and energy in different areas in our community, we can move the needle. We can address some of the short-term needs. I've heard about the short-term needs about food, and it's not just short-term, it's always going to be there for a long while. We need to address all of those. At the same time, I think we need to have that vision of where we want to be in 7 years. And how do we move intentionally? How do we intentionally move to that place and that time? And the people that are involved in this conversation today, we've all got our networks. So what if we brought our networks all together? That web gets even stronger and wider, and we can do better. And we can do it, I think, in a more rapid fashion, and it's cohesive. And that's part of, I think, what the community is looking for. Do we have cohesive messaging coming from all the different silos that we have in our community? Let's have that cohesive message. So again, Mayor, I really do thank you for creating this opportunity to truly let us have a platform to make a difference.
Thank you.
Sorry for the stump speech.
That was a good one, though.
Can I
Suzanne?
touch again?
Yes.
At some point in time, I'd really like to recommend having a gentleman named Harris Rosen come over and tell you about what he did in Orlando. Harris Rosen, I don't know if any of you know who he is, but he single-handedly took over Tangelo Park, which was a really substandard community. And he improved the school, he fixed the broken windows, he took over the YMCA, he offered scholarships to the kids in that community to go to college. He employed people from that community in his hotels that are on International Drive. He did their own health care and has a medical facility for all of the employees. And he grew up in the projects in New York with a single mother. So his story from his beginning to all that he's accomplished is just fabulous. And it just shows what one person in the community can really do. He had worked for Disney. There was a layoff, and so he and his dog went to live in the Quality Inn, one room in the Quality Inn hotel. Then he bought that hotel with a bunch of investors and was able to put investors together to buy other hotels. I think they currently own 10. But it just shows what one person can do to make a difference in the neighborhood, in the community, and then in the wider community as a whole.
Thank you, Suzanne. I see in the chat room, Maria Davila would like to speak. Maria, are you there?
Yes, I'm here. Can everyone hear me?
Yes.
Okay. I'm the founder of Healthy Souls International. We're here in South Daytona, and you know, we do have a lot of ideas that we'd like to, you know, try to help build a stronger community. And I just, you know, I'm sharing because one of the things that we do is disaster relief. And we have gone to the Bahamas, we've gone to Puerto Rico, and we've been to broken communities and helped them rebuild and come back together. And when this type of things happen, you just see people from all different areas of life coming together and working together. And I believe community is so important. I believe, you know, there's so many possibilities here in Daytona. I love Daytona. I have had so much support from our community here, even with this COVID. We started delivering groceries to people who are vulnerable if they're exposed to this coronavirus. And in a community where people are out of work and struggling, we were still able to deliver. This week will be over 50,000 meals in our grocery bags, and that's in 15 weeks. And that's stuff that couldn't be done without the help from the community. And I believe there's so much room for growth here with everyone coming together. I thank you, Mayor, for doing this, because I've been like dying to get involved in something that, you know, we can try to make an impact. And I didn't know where to start. But I'll tell you my story, and it does get personal and I get emotional. So I hope you guys don't mind. But, you know, we started doing disaster relief for the Bahamas last September. And then we were in Puerto Rico, and now we're here in Volusia. And, you know, I was dealing with my own disaster, being a single parent, and I was in a car accident that took me away from my job. You know, they said I could never return back to work. And, you know, like Sarah shared her story, I've been there. I was homeless most of the time while I started this nonprofit. You know, for 10 months and 2 days, me and my son were homeless. My son went through senior year of high school while we were homeless, and he graduates tomorrow, thank God, because, you know, we just kept pushing and pushing. And you know, I've experienced firsthand what it's like to go and fill out applications for apartments, have high application fees just to do a background check, and have them say, yes, you're pre-qualified, and then there's $100 for an application fee. And then they turn around, and after you go through the pre-screen, and they tell you, all right, you're not qualified because you don't make enough money. Or you go to the apartment building next door, and they tell you you're not qualified because you make too much money. Like, affordable housing is a huge issue here. But I still, like, I'm a woman of faith, and I believe that anything is possible, that change can be made if we all came together and worked together. And I just think I have a lot to offer as far as feedback, being that person who had to experience it, but still striving. And, you know, out now, you know, we have a nonprofit that has been very successful in helping the community. So I would love to be more involved, and I have a lot of great ideas that I would like to introduce to all of you.
Thank you, Maria. Anyone else? And Bill, as I'm looking at my list, it seems like we've kind of, I mean, we got there roundabout, but we kind of touched on a lot of most of the questions that I had.
Deanna's got her hand up here, Bob.
Oh, I'm sorry, Deanna.
I'm sorry, Bob. I know you're probably trying to wrap up, but I just wanted to say something about when Bill and Joe were speaking about what is it going to look like in 5 to 7 years? What difference can we make in that time? And so, and Maria, thank you for sharing your story. I think if we, there are many moving pieces, but we can start in one place. And so today's current, 5th graders or 6th graders, I would love to challenge. This is the age actually at which we lose them in middle school, especially the kids who are not at the same socioeconomic level, that most of us maybe have grown up in, right? And so this is when that difference in where you live in the allergies to roaches and not having enough meals and not having broadband access and whatever it is, this is when it begins to make the difference and separate them out. And I would love to see and challenge our organizations, as Bill referred to, our community organizations, our employers who can do so, and certainly our colleges to, adopt a class, adopt a 5th grade class, and follow them through that time, so that if you're an employer and your employees are interacting with that class throughout that time, so they begin to see the possibilities in other fields. For the colleges, I believe all of our colleges, except for Embry, but Embry's even should even be involved in terms of technology and engineering and aerospace, just so that kids can interact with our students, our faculty, our employers, our community members who are working in various fields over those 7 years to see the possibilities. So all the kids know all the possibilities, right? Not just the ones that are going to the high schools in the more well-heeled areas, because one of the key ways that you affect health, the biggest impact on health, actually, health and human social services we're talking about, is wealth. And we don't mean that as in like Bill Gates wealth. We mean that as in, exactly what Sarah was saying, a mom who started at this point down here, she's still here, and she seems to be that domino effect that the mayor was speaking about. And we can impact that, at least in a small way, with this class, this current 5th grade, incoming 5th grade class, by adopting them, and also maybe perhaps asking our colleges to provide a space for them 7 years from now, should they want to stay here. We want people like Ethan, to stay here. I see an incredible impact that he has on my students, both my undergraduate and my graduate, and to see him go into the doctoral program makes a big difference and has them thinking in a very different way. So I know that's a little piece, but it's a big piece, because if we can affect their educational level and what they can earn over a lifetime, that changes it for all of the generations behind them. And so many of people who are brown and Black are just generations behind, even though the system was designed to do that. And so one of the best ways to help that catch up more quickly is to ensure that we are adopting those kids, showing them the possibilities, and then providing opportunities for them to actually enter an apprenticeship, a 2-year program, a 4-year program, a master's program. It's what Gates is doing with the Millennial Scholarship. He takes 17-year-olds, he gives them money for 10 years, get as many degrees as you can in 10 years. Well, I have 3 of those graduates from my time at USF. And they're out as, doctors and PhDs doing what they do to improve it. So, sorry, that's my last point, just a challenge.
No, and we have time. I want to be respectful of everyone's time if everyone's had a chance to share everything. Again, there are a few people I cannot see who are on the phone. Anyone on the phone who would like to share something? Hearing none. Well, Mayor Henry, I think it's been a good discussion. I want to give you an opportunity to maybe make some final comments.
Great. Commendations to all for sticking with us thus far. And I, again, want to encourage you to stay the course. And I also want to encourage you to enlarge our circle here, invite others to participate, and there are others who will be a part of this. As we move forward, the week of the 20th, we will convene again, and that meeting will be a little different in its objective. It is a focus group, and I hope all of you will participate, because at the end of the day, the focus groups are designed to, today we were to listen and hear about the problems. When we talk about a focus group, I want us to come back with thinking about an actionable agenda that we can begin to implement individually and collaboratively. So if there's someone in these calls that you want to collaborate with, or someone who's not that you want to collaborate with, think about how can I go out and collaborate to implement something that will move the needle a little bit. And of course, I'm always about introspection. And while I totally agree with Ethan's earlier assessment about this issue being systemic, at the same time, I think if we could get everyone in our society to acknowledge where we are individually, and then to individually commit to moving forward, then whatever's within our purview, it will have to move, because we will be a force of nature moving it through commitment. And so I do want us to reflect on what we've experienced here today. I want us to go back and consider taking some sort of an assessment to see where we are individually, and also consider how you can pass assessments on throughout your agencies and institutions. But as we come back on the week of the 20th, I will get with our presenters, because we want to make sure that they are able to coordinate. So the session will either be 10 to 12 or 2 to 4. And it will be one of the days on the week of the 20th. And again, I want you all to go back and think about an actionable agenda that you can implement, collaboration, ways that you can collaborate with others. And we'll get together, and the three of us will send you an email with hopes of something that you can think even deeper about, because at the end of the day, we want to move the community forward. We do want to move the needle. So I thank all of you again for participating. I am going to, if you have information that you want to share with us, and that you want the entire group from the other sessions to see, send that to me. Sarah sent an email the other day that I'm going to share with the entire group with just a lot of information. A lot of it, I think, was on health, for us to be able to review and to educate ourselves on, because at the end of the day, I don't want us to preach, but I do realize that there is a need in our community for proselytizing about equity. And as a mayor, you're always sensitive of the political nuances and how things come to bear. But we do have to get our message out that this is something for us to work on, because there are those who would say that picture doesn't matter, the picture on the right. The picture on the left is what's fair. It's what's good enough. And so while we may be in agreement that it's not what's good enough, we do have to find a way to communicate this message and why it's important. So if no one else has any other remarks, we will close, but I will say that we have another session from 4 to 6. It will be on criminal justice. And then tomorrow, our final listening session is from 10 to 12. It will be our clerical religious community coupled with our neighborhoods. And it's, as I've said before, it's coming to light to me even more, because we talked earlier about education, and someone was mentioning about the schools and how the schools needed mentors, and Bill was mentioning how they went in and worked at Turie, and we had a principal on yesterday who was talking about his desire to be able to connect his students to our business community. So there's no perfect prescription, but one thing is for certain. If we do not remain engaged, we won't move forward. So stay engaged, and thank you all. And hopefully we'll see you on the week of the 20th, and we'll get you the schedule out hopefully by Monday. Okay.
Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor.
Thanks,
Thank you,
everyone.
everyone.
Thank
Thank you,
you.
Mayor.
Thank you.